I want to talk more about human behavior and culture than the technology and the use of pseudonymity and aliases in culture. It's been prevalent forever, and there's a new opportunity to use aliases within Web3 environments. The only name you shouldn't know on that list is in the bottom left, and I'd like to change that. I'm Neal, founder and CEO of Third Act, NFT marketplace devoted to theater. And when you think about this concept, the two at a glance could not be further apart, kind of like oil and water. But I'd like to start by kind of making note of where this conference is being held in the theater district in New York City. As an active member of Broadway, I'm really excited to see it back. So go support Broadway. Thank you. And when we started looking at these two big groups of people, crypto and theater, again, they seem very different, but there's a lot of similarities between them. On the one hand, though, you have the theater community that is very public, a bit more tech adverse, and within crypto, you have a very tech forward, but a rather private community. All that's changing, and we're right at the intersection of where this next audience of Web3 users are existing. If I go to the next slide. So what I'm talking about today is this kind of common ground that's coming up between transparency and anonymity or privacy. At the end of Web 2, we had a lot of tension around privacy because of the centralized nature of the technology. A lot of people, or a few people, had access to a lot of the data and transactions, and that's why there's been this huge advocacy for privacy over the last 10 years. And Web 3 being built so much more on anonymity and privacy kind of kept people out in the beginning. But now that there's such a fantastic spotlight on this technology with conferences like this, we're entering an era where audiences want to be able to show off, step out of anonymity within Web 3 and do it in a safe way. And the compromise between these two things is pseudonymity, or showing a version or portion of yourself that you decide. A really big insight here is that crypto is not the currency. That's not the one I'm going to talk about. It's identity. It's the identity who you are and who you claim to be. There's a lot of opportunity within Web 3 because the lunch tables are all colliding, the deck is being reshuffled, and you can claim a bold new identity that didn't exist in Web 2. And to a degree, it was already happening on social media through metahumans and influencers. We're always showing just a version of ourselves online. But within Web 3, we're seeing aliases and personas being adopted not only in the creative community, but in the collector community. You have collectors personifying themselves and building reputations, and we're using Web 2 to vouch for it. We're using social media to authenticate and provide validity to what we're doing in Web 3. It's a fantastic merging of the two. So when you're buying online and you're collecting, you have the opportunity to create a new persona, which is partly communicated through what you own. And so you're going to start to see that as people buy more broadly, there's going to be more doors that open to those people because they're not going to be pigeonholed like we were with algorithms on Web 2. Within Web 3, I'm especially excited by all the opportunities that collectors are showing. You know, creativity is no longer reserved to just the artists, but also the collectors and the people who hold and own the tokens. I encourage everybody to check out new and different marketplaces and buy boldly, claim a bold identity. Now, as Web 3 matures, let's make sure we're not falling into the same pitfalls of Web 2, which is people kind of pseudo-centralizing different aspects of the ecosystem and different flows of information. There's a lot of information out there. It's tough to read. So make sure that you're looking at everything that's going on, which can be tough, but having multiple wallets is one way to guard against any kind of pigeonholing of yourself and your identity. You know, you can have one social security number, you can have 9 wallets. And you can start to build reputations around those wallets, and as a collector, the owner of those wallets. I think it's fascinating that the number of wallets being created is almost a currency unto itself. So the last piece that I'm going to kind of speak on here, and it's the same slide, so don't worry about it. Get very comfortable with this here. The last piece that I want to talk about is really where something that's coming out of a theater insight and really prevalent or applicable to Web 3. And these pseudonyms are used all the time within the industry. They're stage names and aliases, some of the names that I showed in the first slide. And they're chosen because they fit the medium, they fit the environment. Brian Stokes Mitchell is a leading actor within Broadway. It's not his real name. He chose it because he thought it looked good on a marquee. It sounded nice, had a nice rhythm to it. Embrace an identity that you completely decide within Web3.